Welcome to your history revision. This is a series of videos to go through your source-based case study and how you can get that A, that distinction, bring it home. First, making inference. This is the basic inference skills. Let's take a look at the screen. First part, important notes. Now, inferences are the building blocks to all your answers, alright? The building blocks to all your answers. If you don't have a good starting inference for all your answers, all your other paragraphs are going to be considered wrong. Alright, so this is the basic skill, but yet is the most important skill, because if this is not correct, everything else is going to be wrong. Okay, let's move on. What is a good main inference? Now, when you see the question, right, make sure it's relevant to the question topic. Highlight the question and what they want you to infer about. Then, after that, make sure your answer is exactly relevant to the question topic. Alright, this is very, very important. Next, your inference should be one level higher than the evidence. Let me give you a good illustration here. Okay, this is what you see. Imagine this is your evidence, right? This is going to be what you see. Imagine your eye level is over here looking at your evidence. What do you see is what you see as the evidence, right? But when I ask you to do an inference, you're supposed to go one level higher. So you imagine something above the evidence, right? This is formed by the evidence, and this is what you should see. So you should look up, go beyond what you see. All right. So make sure your inference is a level higher than the evidence. It is not inside the evidence. You shouldn't live. You shouldn't copy. Right. You should go one level higher. And of course, you must do this. Ayao. What is ayao? Ayao is simply in your own words. Right? Make sure it's in your own words. And finally, your inference should also be clear. What do I mean by clear? Clear means you leave no room for open interpretation. For example, if you say that something is good, right? Good is open to interpretation, right? One person can say that maybe eating fast food is good, right? Eating fast food is good. It's good to him. He enjoys the experience. Another person can say eating fast food is bad. Food is not good. So can you see here? It's open to interpretation. Now we don't want answers that look like this. So make sure it is clear. The most obvious thing, the most common use word you can use is harsh. Harsh is harsh, right? Harsh implies a negative tone, right? And it is direct. It is direct and it's clear. So leave no room for open interpretation. If you read your inference line, you find that there is room for open interpretation. That means it's not clear enough. So make it clear. Moving on. This is one example I have for you of a student answer. I can infer that the Japanese killed many locals during the Sokching. Now what's the problem with this answer? It's not one level higher, right? Here you see the Japanese sweeping the Sukching skulls, implying that yes, definitely he killed them. So by saying that he killed many locals during the Sokching, this is too low level. It's not one level above what I see over here, right? You can say that they treated the locals very harshly, very cruelly, with a lack of respect. That is going one level above. But if you just say they killed many locals, I understand that because I can see that happening inside the source. So you're not going one level above. Okay, now moving on to writing framework. This is very basic for you. First, you have your main inference. What should you do for your main inference? You must answer the question. Or in other words, I would like to say this is called respecting the question, right? Please answer directly to what the question is asking. That is called respecting the question. If your mother asks you, right, are you coming home for dinner? And instead of answering her, you ignore her totally. You just walk out the door. Then you're not answering the question. Or if she says, "Are you coming home for dinner?" and you say, "I'm going to play some football later on with my friends." Full stop. Do you answer the question? No. And are you respecting her? Are you respecting her question? No, you're not. So therefore, you must imagine it this way, right? The marker is the one who is asking you a direct question. When you write your answer, please answer directly and don't be lazy. Write down the full statement down. That is called answering the question. Next, your evidence. The source shows or the source states. Clearly list it down so I know that you are quoting your evidence. And of course, please quote the thing. Don't summarize it, quote it. And last but not least, when you're explaining, right, give me the this means, suggest, implies, so that I know that you are starting your explanation from this point onwards. All right. If you do not do it, then I can't tell. The marker needs to take extra effort to tell where is your explanation starting from. So in order to make it a smooth experience and enjoyable experience for the marker as well, tell them you're starting your explanation with this means, this suggests, this implies. Now, breaking through into your evidence. What is a good evidence? This is quite straightforward. Make sure it's relevant. All right. Make sure it's relevant to the inference being made, and ask yourself, if this were my only evidence, does it imply my inference? Right. If this is the only evidence I have, does it imply the inference that I made? Okay. That means you must have all the characters inside the evidence, right? All the necessary characters, right? All the characters, all the actions. If not, that means your inference is wrong. Okay? So your inference can only be based on the evidence that you write down in your answer. What is a good evidence? For cartoons, now if you see cartoons, remember these things: character, action, expression, lead techniques. All these lead techniques here are available for you to use. And when you explain, you are just explaining the meaning of all these cartoons, the symbolism. I would say you're explaining the symbolism of what each of these things actually mean. Now I'll go further in depth in another video of what to do in a cartoon. So this is the important part. What is a good explanation? Means starting with this means that. Alright, how do you give a good explanation? Now you must think in this way. You are explaining causal links, right? You are explaining causal links. Everything, there's a cause and there's an effect. Okay, you must sound convincing, right? You must be clear and convincing in your causal links. That links back to let the marker believe what you say. In your inference, the marker must know what you're talking about, right? So make the link, make a strong link between your evidence and your inference in 2 to 3 sentences, right? 2 to 3 sentences or even more sentences, as long as you explain the link. And finally, again, please ayao in your own words, in your own words. Finally, how to help you to give a good explanation? Make sure you annotate on the source with as much casual links as you can before you attempt the answer. All right. For example, all right, if you say, if your mother asks you, right, why did you fail the exam? Why did you fail? Right? What is the evidence? The evidence is, of course, your mark sheet. Your mark sheet clearly shows that you failed the exam. And then in your explanation, you told your mother, well, I failed. I failed because I failed. Now, what are you doing here? You're not explaining at all. Is your mother going to accept this reason? No, she's not. All right. You have to give causal links. Well, I failed. Based on this mark sheet, you know that I failed. So from this mark sheet, the explanation is this. I don't understand. I don't understand. Probably it could be because I don't understand the question, right? It could be because the teacher didn't teach it well. Teach well. And so I got lost. And hence, because I got lost, I got the answers wrong. And because I got the answers wrong, that is exactly why I failed. So causal links are very important in your explanation. If you don't have it, I'm afraid we cannot give you the full marks or even a passing mark for some questions for your answers. So make sure you have the causal links down, clear and direct. Okay, some examples here. For this question, right, is the author a supporter of the Japanese occupation? You say yes, the author is a supporter of the Japanese occupation. Okay, you have the evidence there. It says that you must plan your future. You will find happiness, security, and prosperity and a new life, all right, in the Japanese occupation. Therefore, let's look at this person's explanation. This shows that the author agrees and supports what the Japanese do. So can you see this agrees and supports is exactly what I'm saying in the first line, right? That the author is a supporter of Japanese occupation, but you're not clearly explaining the why. Then you see the next line. The author trusts what the Japanese is doing is right. Again, trust is like a paraphrase of I'm supporting you, I trust you. But why exactly do you trust the Japanese? Right? So this is called lacking. You are lacking your causal links. Right? You have to tell me, so what? You use the question, so what? So what if there's security? So what if there's happiness? So what is there prosperity? Will it give you a better life? Will it make your life more comfortable? Will it make you need to worry less? Right? Are your needs taken care of? You see, these are the many ways that I can expand upon this line here of security, happiness, and prosperity, instead of just saying that. Hence, this means that the author trusts what the Japanese is doing right, not really explaining why this links to the reason that you support the Japanese occupation. So I really hope you understand that when you explain, right, again, you have to give me the causal links, how your evidence links back to your point that you made. Okay? Without the strong explanation, your paragraph inference cannot hit the full marks. And in some cases, in some questions, if you can't do that, then you can't move on. In some cases, you can't even pass. So please make sure you explain it well. Explain your sources well. Moving on to another explanation. This author is a supporter of the Japanese occupation. The source states, whatever, okay? This implies the author wanted people to join the Nippon Empire, which is ruled by the Japanese. Again, you are not telling me why, right? You're not telling me why. Or you're not telling me, so what? So what if the author wants to join the Nippon Empire? Why is it so? How can they benefit, right? How do they benefit? That's the reason why this explanation is called weak. Okay, let's look at this, right? Let's say you get a picture, all right? First thing you notice, write down what you notice. This is how you annotate, right? They are skinny, they are thin, they are thin. Next thing you notice, there's clothes, right? All over the place, right? Hanging. Next thing you notice, many people, many POWs in one room. All right, these are all the things that you notice. So think about your causal links first and write them down. If you have another color pen, use another color pen. So clothes all over hanging, right? Means it probably could imply this is a lot of uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable position. They are thin, right? Could imply they are malnourished, right? Not given enough food. And then all in one room implies a very cramped, right? Cramped, unhygienic conditions. So the red color words that I wrote here is all my explanation, my causal links that I will use later on for my inference. Okay, so the question is, what can you infer about prisoners of war? From all these things I gather here, I will use the standard word, right? They had a harsh life. The prisoners of war had a harsh life. And how do I know they have a harsh life? It's because in their living quarters, you will see clothes hanging all over the place. You would see um, that they look very thin, and you will see that there are many people staying in one room. Then I'll ask you the question, so what? So what if you see all these things? Well, because I see all these things, therefore I know that it is harsh as it's cramped, they are unhappy, they are unhygienic living condition, they are malnourished, and they live very uncomfortable. Where did you get all these extensions from? Where did you get all these causal links from? I got it from the evidence that I saw. And from this evidence, it all links back to my main inference, which is therefore there is a harsh life. So your paragraph Your paragraph really needs to have synergy. Every single sentence is not a wasted sentence. It is meant to go back to the main inference. That is how you should explain. So do your annotations first. Think about your causal links first before you write down your paragraph. If not, you will miss out on some key aspects of your explanation. Your mind is not clear enough and it won't be clear when you write it down. Okay, so let's take a look at this example. I can infer the life was harsh, right? The picture shows that there were many prisoners in the living quarters together, hanging and writing. What does this imply? So again, the key question, so what? So what if the evidence says this? Well, it implies Japanese treated them poorly, resulted in uncomfortable, cramped conditions, not given enough food, malnourishment. All this is ayao, right? In my own words, and they are extensions. They are either called extensions or they are called causal links again. Causal links to what? Links to the idea of harsh. So your words that you use must be related to your main inference word, which is harsh. Alright, so this is how you explain properly, and this is how you will get the L3 5 marks. Now I don't have time to go through anymore, so I'll stop here, and I hope you understand that this is a key skill. The main skill is your inference. Do it well, you can do all the other questions well.